Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Shafiyla Lyoni Putri from English Education Department Class 4E. In this video, I will explain about teaching in cross-cultural context. Here are some questions to guide your thoughts. Number 1. How was their dress, body language, tone of voice, or level of formality different from American teachers? Number 2. How did this teacher affect your learning, both positively and negatively? Number 3. Did this teacher bring new perspectives to the topic or present material using techniques you had not encountered before? Number 4. Were you always able to understand what the teacher said? Number 5. Did the examples this teacher used seem relevant to your life? Number 6. Were this teacher's expectations of student behavior and or academic standards similar to your previous classroom experiences? Number 7. Can you remember an instance when you had trouble talking to or explaining something to the teacher? If so, why do you think it was difficult? Number 8. If given the opportunity, would you choose to have this teacher or trainer again? Why or why not? Reflecting on your experience of being taught by someone from a different culture might provide insight into how your behavior might be perceived by your students. Having a foreign teacher can be enriching and frustrating. Much depends on cultural understanding and how teaching is adapted to accommodate cultural differences. Cultural intelligence is the sum of the knowledge, skills, and attitudes that enable a volunteer teacher to work successfully with students, fellow teachers, administrators, and parents at a host school. You are not born with a cultural intelligence, nor is it acquired overnight. How do you gain cultural intelligence? First, increase your awareness of your own cultural values, beliefs, traditions, and norms, and how they affect your behavior. Next, appreciatively observe everyday school life and ask non-judgmental questions. Make tentative assumptions about the culture and check your assumption through additional observation and or discussion with individuals familiar with the culture. Learn from your mistakes, study and practice the language. And finally, adapt some behaviors that enables you to function in the culture while maintaining your own values and beliefs. Cultural values. Because cultural are complex, we use models to help understand them. The 5 culture scales described by Brooke-Patterson also illustrates the differences between low context and high context cultures. Keeping these generalizations in mind may offer insight into behavior patterns and relationships you observe in school and community. A high context or formal cultures evolves when people live together for many generations. Because there is so much general understanding and shared knowledge, people do not need to explain many things to each other. The context gives the clues. For example, the forms of communication may vary by age. A young person speaking to someone older may use specific verb forms or honorific titles, and or may look or not look at the person, stand or stay seated, bow slightly or deeply, etc. Low context or informal cultures are relatively young societies and often include mixed ethnic groups. Because people do not come from generation of living together and knowing everyone, they have less shared context on which to base their interaction. Cultural norms are often so strongly ingrained in an individual's daily life that the individual is unaware of certain behavior. Until these behaviors are seen in the context of a different culture with different values, the individual may have difficulty recognizing and changing or adapting them. Examine a new culture. Schools are microcosm of community culture. They reflect of community's cultural values and take an active role in passing both visible and hidden cultural elements to the next generations. Cross-cultural experts use the analogy of an iceberg to help explain the visible and hidden components at play in a culture. Some examples of how the hidden culture may affect behaviors in host school. Teachers and friends do what they can to help a strong math student gain admission to higher education even though he or she cannot get a high enough score in a language class. And then child rearing and religion values are reflected in school discipline practices. And then grades may be influenced by the status of the student's family or a gift to a teacher or school official. Student stands for a teacher enters the classroom. Good student sits in front and bad student sits in the back of the classroom. Introducing change. By now you have developed some cultural awareness and have adjusted some behaviors to accommodate living with people from different culture. You realize changes are necessary when working in a new culture. Use culturally appropriate behavior to establish professional credibility. First, learn the language, and then dress and groom yourself for your role as a professional teacher. Behave appropriately when meeting colleagues for the first time. Observe the correct protocol for meeting with the school administrators. Behave appropriately when first meeting your students. Learn how you are expected to interact with parents. Learn what community involvement is expected of a teacher. I think that's all my explanation about my topic. Thank you so much for your attention. Thanks for watching. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.